live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Today on Good Morning Maine, divers have been called in to join the search for two missing fishermen off the coast of Maine.
Plus, Maine joins a lawsuit to challenge President Trump's order to end birthright citizenship.
And a women's club in Winterport is working to make life better in their community. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you for joining us. We'll have those stories and a lot more coming up, including reactions to some of President Trump's big actions in his first day or two in office.
In fact, we'll have a whole segment about everything that he's done since taking office.
There's a lot going on to consider.
Yeah.
But first, to check out that forecast, another icy start to the day out there. It was minus 13 when I hopped in my old pickup truck to come to work this morning.
Yeah.
And it just barely starts warming up by the time I get here. So by the time I get here, I'm just frozen solid.
Makes the insides of your nose freeze pretty quick.
It's that time of year, folks, and it looks like we have another day or so to deal with this Arctic blast, and that things will start to warm up tomorrow a little bit. Warming up, I'm saying up into the 20s.
Right.
So, but today's going to be a cold day ahead.
Yeah. Here's Devin Biggs with that forecast.
And thank you very much, Craig and Emma. Happy Wednesday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Comfort Shoes can help you find the perfect fit for your new winter footwear. Visit us across from Irving and Newport. Here we go. A cold start this morning with temperatures falling well below zero for all of us. So definitely making sure we need to bundle up as we venture out this morning. Look at Clayton Lake, 24 below for the actual air temperature this morning. That's why they're under cold weather advisories until 10 a.m. this morning. A freezing spray advisory will also drop at 10 a.m. this morning as well along the coast. Meanwhile, quiet on land for the moment. We'll see a good amount of sunshine for today, although some more clouds will develop as we head towards the afternoon period. Meanwhile, this highly advertised winter storm along the southern states tracking off to the east now. It will soon be out of here very soon along the southern coast. But meanwhile, for us, the rest of the Northeast rather quiet, a little bit of lake effect still developing, and that's pretty much about it at this moment in time. So we'll be under a partly cloudy sky for us today. We'll clear out for a bit, but more clouds on the way, especially as we head towards Thursday morning. You might get a quick wind gust reaching up to 15 miles per hour today. That will calm down later on tonight, but then tomorrow, some gusts again could reach up to around 15 miles per hour at times. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period showing a lot of sunshine, a few clouds for the afternoon with temperatures in the teens. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
Thank you, Devin. We'll have a look at that full 5-day forecast a little later on. Well, first thing this morning, divers are expected to descend into the icy waters off of Trescott today. That's where it's suspected that two fishermen vanished when their scallop boat ran into foul weather over the weekend. Chester Barrett and his son Aaron were traveling from Cobscook Bay to Addison Saturday morning when they hit rough seas and announced they were taking shelter in Cutler. But that's the last they were heard from. A massive search has been going on along the coast since that time, and some fellow fishermen believe they have found the location of the boat in the water near Moose Cove. According to the Bangor Daily, divers have been hired to search that area today with hopes of rescuing recovering the two missing fishermen. A GoFundMe page has also been set up to help their family.
Well, meanwhile, Topsom police say two officers shot and tased an armed man along Route 196 yesterday. Police say dispatchers got a call from 33-year-old Joseph Mendez, who thanked them for their service and then said that they would be finding him soon. Police tracked him to the Mary Meeting Bridge, where they say he was holding a machete. Police say Mendez ignored orders to drop his weapon and charged toward the officers. They shot him and say they then had to tase Mendez as he continued to resist arrest. Even after getting shot, he was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. Officers Matthew Bowers and Fraser Vachon are now on administrative leave, which is standard as the Attorney General's office investigates deadly use of force. Police say they are investigating criminal charges against Mendez.
A Waterville man is facing aggravated drug trafficking charges after officers searched his apartment. According to the Waterville Police Department, their officers, along with Somerset County Sheriff's detectives, arrested Jonathan Petgrave after a search warrant was executed at 11 College Avenue, apartment 3. During the search of their residence, Waterville police say detectives located approximately 33 grams of cocaine base and approximately 6 grams of fentanyl. In 2021, Petgrave was convicted of aggravated trafficking of scheduled drugs and was sentenced to 58 months in prison. Because of his prior conviction, Petgrave's 2 new aggravated trafficking charges are both counted as Class A crimes.
Well, the Bangor Police Department continues to seek information about a man they believe is responsible for 3 armed robberies. This is video of the suspect, who is described as a white male between 5'8" and 6'2", weighing between 250 and 300 pounds. He was last seen wearing a black mask, gray North Face sweatshirt with a possible black rain jacket underneath, as well as black pants, brown work boots, and gray gloves with possible texture on the palms, wearing a blue sort of pullover coat in the latest robbery. According to Public Information Officer Sergeant Jason McCambly, the suspect robbed the Circle K at Broadway and Griffin Road back on January 13th. And the same suspect is also believed to have robbed the Big Apple convenience store on State Street and also the same Circle K again on January 19th.
So far, the people, even though they've been pretty terrified, they have provided really, really good information for us, and we're just hoping for that one little break so we can go get the person who did it.
Well, if you have any information, contact the Bangor Police Department at 947-7384. You can also leave an anonymous tip there.
The trial for a Milford man accused of trying to kill his girlfriend in May of 2023 is underway. At the Penobscot County Superior Court, jurors heard opening statements and then testimony from several witnesses. Our Alex Schley was in court and has more.
Day 1 in the attempted murder trial of Devon Carter included opening statements and 6 witnesses who took the stand and testified. Carter is on trial for aggravated attempted murder. Prosecutors say he allegedly hit his then-girlfriend with a hammer multiple times. The Milford man is facing multiple other charges, including elevated aggravated assault, kidnapping, and aggravated assault. During opening arguments, Carter's defense attorney, Zachary Frey, told jurors that Carter admitted to attacking the woman, but did not take her life or attempt to take her life.
One of the reasons we know this, as you'll come to learn, is because Mr. Carter, while under zero obligation to do so, and before he was even charged with a crime, did the right thing and told the detectives what he'd done.
Prosecutors, however, argue Carter's actions do meet the criteria to charge him with aggravated attempted murder, as well as the other charges he is currently facing.
For purposes of this case, the big difference between attempted murder and assault is intent. Attempted murder requires the intent to commit the crime of murder.
The prosecution's first 6 witnesses took the stand Tuesday, including the doctors who treated the victim, identified as Tara. They described the severity of her injuries, including shards of her skull splintering and becoming lodged in her eye. Jurors also heard from State Trooper Stephen Day, who assisted in apprehending Carter. The trial is set to resume Wednesday morning. In Bangor, I'm Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
All right, the time now is 6:09. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, Maine is among the states challenging President Donald Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship in the United States. We'll have local reactions.
Plus, we'll have a first look at that forecast before we take the break. Today looks like a partly cloudy day, another cold one out there, only reaching around 16 degrees. Increasing clouds tonight with lows dropping down to around 1. Tomorrow, a slight chance of snow with highs around 24. If it makes you feel better, it's snowing in Florida right now.
Yeah, right.
Right. More news when we come back.
When disaster strikes, who do you call? Penobscot Cleaning Services for smoke and fire damage, water and storm damage, and even nasty mold. Who do you call? Penobscot Cleaning Services for the cleanest carpets, guaranteed. Who do you call? Penobscot Cleaning Services, from cleanup to restoration and everything in between. Wow! Tell your insurance company you want Penobscot Cleaning Services. Visit our website for more info. We'll restore things to normal in no time.
Caswell's Grocery Liquidation, where you shop first. Shop local. Great savings and selection. It's worth the trip. You won't be disappointed.
Your dollar goes a long, 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 long way at Caswell.
Everyone wants to know who will be nominated. Now, Thursday, live on GMA, the Oscar nominations will be revealed. No one does the Oscars like Good Morning America. Thursday morning, live on GMA.
Put a little more cash in your bank. Save money with half-off deals at foxbangor.com.
Judge Judy never misses a beat.
This is my playpen.
I get that, Your Honor.
Perfect.
Next is mental anguish.
Yours or mine? Am I doing all right?
Excellent.
Judge Judy.
Weeknights at 5 on ABC 7.
Legal challenges to President Donald Trump's executive actions are growing. At least 22 states now suing to block his attempt to end birthright citizenship. Trump is defending his move to pardon defendants from the January 6th attack at the Capitol, saying they already served a long period of time. Perry Russum has more.
This morning, President Trump defending his pardons for the more than 1,500 defendants from the January 6th attack at the Capitol, including those who attacked officers.
These people have already served years in prison, and they've served them viciously. It's a disgusting prison.
Some Republican lawmakers apparently caught off guard.
It was surprising to me that it was a blanket pardon.
Others supporting the move, citing a controversial pardon issued by former President Biden.
He gave a pardon to Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier killed 2 FBI agents.
This morning, Trump placing government diversity, equity, and inclusion workers on leave as he shuts down their offices and programs. On immigration, one of Trump's executive orders will face its first legal test tomorrow.
This is plainly illegal, plainly contrary to our Constitution.
A judge in Seattle will consider a temporary restraining order against Trump's directive ending birthright citizenship, a guarantee under the 14th Amendment declaring anyone born on U.S. soil an American citizen. In Washington, an Episcopal Church bishop echoing a letter released by its leadership Tuesday, criticizing Trump at the National Prayer Service for his stances on immigration and LGBTQ rights.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives.
This morning, Trump calls the bishop a radical left, hardline Trump hater. He says her statements were inappropriate, and he wants an apology. Perry Russum, ABC News, Washington.
Some of President Donald Trump's executive orders are already facing multiple lawsuits, including his executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship. Maine has joined those who are challenging that order. Maine Attorney General Aaron Frey announced he is joining attorney generals from 17 other states in a lawsuit filed in Massachusetts federal court to block the order. Frey said in a statement, quote, "It was anticipated that the president would issue his unconstitutional block on citizenship, but that does not make it any less disappointing. The election did not change the Constitution, and legal action is required to remind the president that his oath is to uphold the sacred document, not rewrite it, end quote. This comes on the heels of another lawsuit from the Maine ACLU and other organizations filed Monday night in New Hampshire federal court. The ACLU called the executive order unconstitutional and racist.
It is codified in the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, which specifically provides for birthright citizenship.
Yesterday, on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, President Trump issued a clearly unconstitutional order, and it's also a transparently racist attempt to redefine who is a part of our community and who is entitled to equal protection and equal rights.
Both lawsuits ask federal judges to issue an injunction stopping the order from being implemented while the cases make their way through court. If neither judge grants the injunction, the order will go into effect 30 days after it was signed.
Well, many of the executive orders President Trump signed will have effects at the state level here in Maine. So what do lawmakers think so far? Our Augusta reporter Corey Bouchard asked them.
Maine Republican leadership was notably absent from both chambers on Tuesday, having attended President Donald Trump's inauguration in Washington, D.C. Lawmakers in Augusta had mixed feelings about Trump's return to the White House.
It's something that is hopefully going to make America great again.
I think it's important to give the president time
and his administration some time and to see where everything goes.
President Trump signed an avalanche of executive orders just hours after taking office, some of which either directly or indirectly impact the citizens and state of Maine. Lawmakers say despite what happens in D.C., they're always looking out for the best interest of the state in Augusta.
Well, I've heard from a few people that they're scared about some of these announcements that have been made. I want to say everyone still has their civil rights, and I just want to say that we here in the Maine legislature, we care about all Maine people. We want to make sure that they're protected.
I can't remember all of them. There are too many to count, but I can tell you that the ones that he highlighted were very beneficial to what he's trying to do, and that is kind of roll back some of the restrictions that have been put on Americans.
Well, I'm not sure some of them are going to hold up legally, but we'll have to let the courts make those decisions. But like I said, we have a ways to go to see where things are going to land.
With some of the executive orders, I am most excited about the offshore wind pause to kind of get some more ideas about what that's really doing to the environment. The cost of that we know is very expensive, so if there are other alternatives without harming that natural environment, I'm looking forward to hearing how that goes.
At the State House, I'm Corey Bouchard for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Senator Susan Collins, voiced strong opposition to some of the pardons issued by President Donald Trump, specifically those related to January 6th rioters. She said in a statement, quote, "While I believe some Americans were caught up in the crowd on January 6th, and many well deserve the clemency President Donald Trump has given, there is a great difference between violent crimes and nonviolent crimes. I do not support pardons given to people who engaged in violence on January 6th, including assaulting police officers or breaking windows to get into the Capitol, for example." End quote. Senator Collins also voiced opposition to some of the pardons issued by President Biden in the final hours of his presidency, including to members of his family. She said it's been a, quote, "terrible week for our justice system," and stressed that violence must not be tolerated.
Well, meanwhile, another controversial order is also in the spotlight this morning as Equality Maine says it's not surprised President Trump targeted the LGBTQ plus community in one of his executive orders signed on Monday.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Well, the president calls the two genders, quote, biological reality. He also is ending a Biden-era Option X on federal paperwork. The director of Equality Maine says putting into practice some of the executive orders will be harder than the Trump administration thinks. She says laws will have to be changed and Trump will have to go around the Supreme Court on things related to employment. She also says attacking LGBTQ rights wasn't a top priority for voters.
Most voters here in Maine and across the country, their number one issue was the economy, was the price of goods, the price of heating oil. This was not. This was actually at the bottom of the list, was attacking LGBTQ people. So this is disheartening for us to have a president who's supposed to bring the country together to start his tenure singling out different types of community members.
Equality Maine says it will be working to reassure the LGBTQ community in Maine that it has plenty of support from elected officials here in the state.
All right, the time now is 6:19. After the break, can you imagine a place with no snowplows and shovels being few and far between? Well, that place is the Gulf Coast, and this morning they're digging out following an unprecedented snowstorm.
We'll have that story coming up, plus your local forecast as Good Morning Maine continues.
Does your vehicle need a little more work? Have an odd sound coming from somewhere? Bring it over to Jackson's Automotive in Old Town. We have the best technicians and offer a fair price. We also accept all aftermarket protection plans. Now, if you're unable to drive your vehicle to us, we can help you get it here. Also, if you'd like to protect your vehicle for years to come, we offer Wool Wax undercarriage protection. We're located at 546 Main Street in Old Town. Give us a call at 827-2676.
He lose his shirt.
I've never seen anybody lose their shirt.
I guess deny and delay didn't work today. Now look at him.
Who's the law firm?
The law offices of Joe Bornstein.
If you've been injured in an accident, call Joe. The law offices of Joe Bornstein. Maine lawyers working for Maine people.
Tell the insurance company you mean
business.
Winter is a time to get outside and enjoy all that Maine has to offer. And when it's time to come inside, rest assured everything's toasty because of your Fujitsu heat pump from Valley Home Services. The comfort and warmth of home means more on days like these. Push a button and you'll be snuggling up on the couch in no time. Valley Home Services offers reliable rebates, significant energy savings, and expert installation. Embrace the comfort of Fujitsu heat pumps from Valley Home Services. Call or click today.
Storm, described as a once-in-a-lifetime event, a winter wonderland in places like Houston, New Orleans, and Pensacola, Florida. And now the brutal cold moves in.
ABC's Andrew Dimbert has more.
This morning, people on the Gulf Coast digging out after a winter storm that set an all-time record. Louisiana sending out its first ever blizzard warnings.
We've never seen anything like this. I mean, it's that simple.
New Orleans shattering its one-day snowfall record with more than 8 inches, the French Quarter buried in snow, and chaos on the roads, authorities forced to shut down dozens of highways.
The challenge I think we're going to face is the bridges right now are acting like big ice trays.
In Houston, police urging people to stay off the roads. The city, which does not own a single snowplow, called up trucks and supplies from as far as Wisconsin to make the roads passable.
It definitely doesn't look right when you're plowing snow next to a palm tree. Yeah, it's odd. You see people shoveling their driveway with like the floor mat of their car.
The unusually cold weather spreading to roughly 80% of the country. Charlotte waking up to 17 degrees this morning, 14 in Jackson, Mississippi. Farther north, wind chills below zero in many areas. In New York City, parts of the Hudson River frozen. But back in Houston, a little fun. Police and firefighters taking a break for a snowball fight. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
No fun allowed.
No fun allowed.
Get back to work.
I lived in San Antonio, Texas for about 10 years, and when I was it didn't snow the entire time I lived there, except for when I was in 9th grade. That morning it snowed about a half an inch, maybe an inch. And everybody went outside to play in it, just kind of like that scene reminded me of that at school. And then by the time we left at the end of the day, it was gone because it melted. But these kind of storms will cripple areas that just aren't used to them. The folks down in Pensacola right now, they don't know what to do with it all.
Right.
So
I mean, they said in one of those areas they had to bring snowplows away as far as Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Nutty weather.
Yep. All right, the time now is 6:23.
Let's get a full look at our weather forecast.
All righty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Comfort Shoes can help you find the perfect fit for your new winter footwear. Visit us across from Irving and Newport. Here we go. Cold weather advisories up across the northern parts of the state until 10 a.m. this morning. Some cold temperatures being observed there. At the same time, a freezing spray advisory along the coast will be expiring at 10 a.m. this morning as well. Wave heights not too bad at around 2 to 3 feet according to the buoys, and only 5 feet farther out towards sea at this moment in time. Meanwhile, as we move forward this morning, we're pretty clear. Most of the clouds are over the ocean. We'll have a lot of sunshine to start things off. Some clouds will be developing as we head towards the afternoon period. Meanwhile, this highly advertised winter storm along the southern parts of the state tracking off towards the east now, and will soon be out of the southern states very soon. The rest of the country, a little bit of snow across parts of the Midwest this morning, but for us, again, the rest of the Northeast looking rather quiet, just a little bit of lake effect snow developing in a few spots this morning. And again, here's the snow across parts of the Midwest. But for us today, we will be under a partly cloudy sky with those clouds clearing out of here later on tonight for a while. But then once we move forward, the clouds will be increasing again as we head towards Thursday morning. And then mostly cloudy throughout the day Thursday, a slight chance for snow for a few of us, but overall nothing too ridiculous moving forward. The clouds will start to break up as we head towards Thursday night and a parts of Friday morning, although they may linger for a few of us too early Friday morning. Otherwise, some gusty winds could reach up to about 15 miles per hour today, calming down later on tonight. And then once we head towards tomorrow, a few gusts up to 15 miles per hour cannot be ruled out again as we head towards your Thursday. Meanwhile, again, a cold start this morning. Got down to 24 below in Clayton Lake this morning. The rest of us getting close to 10 below at times, but overall temperatures will start to moderate for a few of us today with around 16 16 degrees for that high temperature, which is below the average high of 27. But we will start to moderate into the 20s and even 30s coming up over the next several days. Your forecast coming up, 16 degrees, partly cloudy, wind chills near 10 below, and the northwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Higher gusts cannot be ruled out. For tonight, 1 degree, increasing clouds overnight with the wind overall looking nice and calm. And then moving ahead towards tomorrow, 24 degrees, mostly cloudy, a slight chance for snow, and a southwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. A few higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Partly cloudy for your Friday with highs in the mid-20s. Mid-20s again for your Saturday under a mostly sunny sky, and snow showers for your Sunday with highs in the low 30s.
I'm Jim with Lowry & Associates. A husband and wife called me after they were hit by a drunk driver. They were both seriously injured, they couldn't work, and they were worried about their medical bills. We put 2 former prosecutors on the case and got them the justice they deserved. A $400,000 settlement they were able to use for their retirement. If you've been hurt by a drunk driver, call me. I'm your go-to guy.
Hurt by a drunk driver? Call the twos.
It's high school basketball season, and ABC7 and Fox 22 are here to keep you up to date with your local scores and highlights during Friday Night Fast Break. Get out and support your hometown teams and look for our sports crew to get your own free Friday Night Fast Break t-shirt courtesy of
All That's Metal, Bangor Family Chiropractic, Coastal Auto Parts Bangor, Color Concepts, Sedation Dental, and Barney Mazda.
Mainers know the toughest battles aren't won overnight, and when it comes to quitting smoking or vaping, it may take many tries to get it right. The Maine Quit Link provides the tools you need to stay on track. Free gum, patches and lozenges, plus customized plans to fit your life. No insurance, no copay, no cost to Mainers. No matter how long you've smoked or vaped, quitting is possible. The Maine Quit Link is proven to work and can increase your chance of success. Quit like a Mainer. Enroll online at mainquitlink.com or call 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Your favorite restaurants were half off. It's half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC7. Go to foxbangor.com, click on half off dining, and start saving now.
Goose River Farm and Meat Store is conveniently located on Route 3 across from Hammond Lumber in Belfast. They have a wide selection of meat and poultry, including beef, pork, lamb, chicken, duck, rabbit, and turkey. Open Tuesday through Saturday this summer.
Great restaurants from all over Eastern Maine at half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC7.
You're watching ABC7 Bangor.
Now to the tragedy under investigation at a major ski resort overseas. At least 76 people are confirmed dead, with children expected to be among the victims. ABC's Rhiannon Alley has the story.
A horrifying scene at this popular ski resort in northwestern Turkey. Flames breaking out in the middle of the night, trapping hundreds of people in their rooms. Most people were sleeping when the fire started, apparently in a restaurant, around 3:30 a.m. Thick smoke slowing their escape. Survivors saying they never heard any fire alarms and could not find the fire escapes. Some seen here trying to escape using ropes made out of bed sheets. At least 2 people were killed, jumping from the building. One father heard yelling, "I will throw my child or he will burn." This man saying the people on the upper floors were screaming. Some were trying to jump out. Some had children inside. 9 people, including the hotel owner, have now been detained as part of the investigation. Officials say the hotel did pass fire inspections just last year. Little comfort for the families of the dozens who did not survive. Turkey declaring today a national day of mourning. Rhiannon Alley, ABC News, New York.
Well, meanwhile, the European Union expresses concern over the U.S. decision to leave the World Health Organization. President Trump announcing the withdrawal on Monday, saying the Global Health Agency had mishandled the COVID-19 pandemic and other international health crises. The EU's executive branch addressed its concerns at a news conference on Tuesday in Brussels, noting that the WHO should be reformed.
If we want to be resilient to the global health threats, we need to have a global cooperation in the health area. We see with concerns the announcement to withdraw from the WHO organization by the United States, and we trust that the US administration will consider all this ahead of the formal withdrawal.
Well, the United States is the WHO's biggest financer, contributing between $160 and $815 million every year over the last decade. The withdrawal process is expected to take up to a year.
Palestinians were seen running after aid trucks, delivering more supplies to Gaza on Wednesday, as the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas entered its fourth day. The truce deal requires at least 600 truckloads of aid to be allowed into Gaza every day of the initial 6-week ceasefire, including 50 carrying fuel. Half of those trucks are supposed to go to Gaza's north, where experts have warned famine is imminent. The United Nations said on Tuesday that more than 2,400 trucks have entered the enclave since the start of the truce. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, humanitarian priorities in Gaza include food assistance, opening bakeries, providing health care, restocking hospitals, repairing water networks, bringing material to repair shelters, and reuniting families.
Scene of just desperate people there.
Absolutely. It's absolute destruction. All right, coming up on the second half of the newscast, a local women's club is working to improve our local community through connection and volunteerism. We'll have their story.
That and more coming up on Good Morning Maine.
This intrigued me a little more into the engine side of things. And being able to be hands-on at all times makes it the funnest.
Get ideas and inspiration before your next building project even begins at Hammond Lumber Company. Create your vision when you explore Hammond's extensive in-store showroom displays, showcasing innovative trends from industry-leading suppliers and designers. Your Hammond sales rep will help you find the look you like, and Hammond's design team will help you make it your own. And Hammond delivers from 22 locations across Maine and New Hampshire. For your next building project, find your vision at Hammond Lumber Company.
At US Cellular, you don't have to choose between a great deal on the phone you want and the phone plan that's right for you.
You can get both. 4 free phones of your choice and 4 lines for just $90.
Wow, kids, that's like us not having to choose between tickets to wrestling or that puppet musical.
We want a great phone and a great plan too, don't we, little guy?
Get both. 4 free phones of your choice plus 4 lines for $90. No trade-in needed. US Cellular, built for us.
When I would visit my mother at the nursing home, there were really bad sores on her back, but nobody would tell me what was going on. Why not?
If an incident has occurred at a nursing home that's brought up cause for concern, call the 2s right now.
The attorneys at Lowry and Associates helped me get answers. They held the nursing home accountable for what happened to my mother.
If you suspect nursing home abuse or neglect, we're your go-to lawyers.
I'm currently enrolled in the power sports program. I've always been interested in four-wheelers. I plan to work in an outboard shop. This program is preparing me for that.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. It is also Celebration of Life Day.
This holiday was originally instituted to celebrate the children in our lives, but it has come to signify all that's good about being alive. It's easy to forget sometimes how fortunate we are just to be here. This is a day to remember that the good usually outweighs the bad and to appreciate life's gifts.
I have to remind myself that sometimes, things are, we're just lucky to be here, and, we have to count our blessings, and usually they outweigh the other things.
Absolutely.
If you look at it that way.
If you're finding that you're having a tough day, or you're struggling, it's always good to just shift back to gratitude.
Yeah, exactly. You start doing some positive things, and gradually more positive things will happen too.
It can be really
my
hard.
Experience.
It can be really hard, but if you just count a few things you're grateful for in the midst of a moment, you can come back from it.
And we're grateful for you just watching us this morning.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. On this day in history, back in 1901, Britain's Queen Victoria died after reigning for nearly 64 years. Her son Edward was named as her successor. In 1930, excavation work began for the Empire State Building in New York. In 1973, the landmark Supreme Court decision that established a woman's legal right to abortion was issued in Washington. That would all change, of course, in 2022 when the High Court reversed that decision, declaring that constitutional right no longer exists. In 1984, Apple introduced the Macintosh computer during an ad aired during the Super Bowl.
And in 1998, the man known as the Unabomber pleaded guilty to carrying out a series of mail bombing over 17 years. Ted Kaczynski was caught after a nationwide manhunt and was sentenced to 4 life sentences. He died in prison in 2023. And in 2003, Hispanics were officially declared the largest minority group in the United States. And in 2023, Australian surfer Laura Enever caught a wave measuring more than 43 feet tall off the Hawaiian Islands. It earned her the Guinness World Records title for the largest wave surfed by a woman.
Those people are crazy too. If you ever watch some of those big wave surf championships, they're just nuts. It's a tidal wave coming at you. You're supposed to get out of the way.
I know. It's almost inhuman.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah, good for her though. All right, today's birthdays include rocker Steve Perry from Journey, who is 76 years old today. Actress Diane Lane turned 60, and celebrity chef Guy Fieri turns 57 years old today.
What would we do without Guy Fieri?
I like him. He's one of the few celebrity chefs I like because he's not like a big bully guy. I don't like the bullies at all.
You would not like working in a kitchen.
I would not. No, I've done it. Years ago I did it, but I just don't. I don't like the bullies.
You become a bully working in a kitchen sometimes.
Yeah, I don't like that. I like Guy Fieri because when he goes and eats, tasting a hamburger, he like gets right in there. And
I love diners, drive-ins, and dives.
It's good.
Because I love diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Me too. Yeah. I like that kind of food.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Hey, as far as the weather's concerned, boy, it's cold. I got a chill this morning. It's hard
awful.
to shake it.
It makes your snot freeze.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It's just awful.
We're all in kind of survival mode up here, except for the guys out there and gals fishing today, because somebody's going to be out there on the ice regardless of the weather.
My cousin is. I'm sure he is.
I've done it before. I've gone out when it was like 40 below wind chill before, and as soon as you take the fish out of the hole.
I thought you meant like lobster fishers.
Oh no, well those guys are doing it too. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking about ice fishermen going out there on the ice.
Just for fun.
Yeah, you take the minnows out of the little bucket to put them on the thingy thing.
Immediately.
And they freeze solid, So but good for you, it's
diehards.
a good time.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
I respect it. Hey, let's get a look at that forecast though, because it's -7 right now. The sun hasn't risen yet.
It's going to warm up though.
Yeah, it is.
And thank you very much, Craig and Emma. Happy Wednesday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Comfort Shoes can help you find the perfect fit for your new winter footwear. Visit us across from Irving and Newport. Here we go. A cold start this morning with temperatures falling well below 0 for all of us. So definitely making sure we need to bundle up as we venture out this morning. Look at Clayton Lake, 24 below for the actual air temperature this morning. That's why they're under cold weather advisories until 10 a.m. this morning. A freezing spray advisory will also drop at 10 a.m. this morning as well along the coast. Meanwhile, quiet on land for the moment. We'll see a good amount of sunshine for today, although some more clouds will develop as we head towards the afternoon period. Meanwhile, this highly advertised winter storm along the southern states tracking off to the east now. It will soon be out of here very soon along the southern coast. But meanwhile, for us, the rest of the Northeast rather quiet, a little bit of lake effect still developing, and that's pretty much about it at this moment in time. So we'll be under a partly cloudy sky for us today. We'll clear out for a bit, but more clouds on the way, especially as we head towards Thursday morning. You might get a quick wind gust reaching up to 15 miles per hour today. That will calm down later on tonight, but then tomorrow, some gusts again could reach up to around 15 miles per hour at times. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period showing a lot of sunshine, a few clouds for the afternoon with temperatures in the teens. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
All right, thank you, Devin. That was kind of funny. All right, a club in Winterport is working to enhance its community, shape a brighter future for all residents, and show others the power of volunteerism at the same time.
What's funny?
You're just over there busy.
Oh.
She's doing homework for college over here, just shuffling papers, and then
you didn't have to out me like that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. You just made me laugh.
Okay. Let's talk about these cool ladies who are doing good stuff for the community.
Yeah. Jody Hersey has the story.
Yeah.
Even a small group of women can make a huge positive difference.
For 93 years, the GFWC Winterport Women's Club has been creating a positive impact in this small Waldo County town.
It's the largest international volunteer organization in the world.
There are 17 GFWC women's clubs in Maine. The local Winterport group completed 35 projects in 2024, funded by the group's 2 annual fundraisers, which are its perennial plant sale and yearly calendar sale.
Some people think we're a garden group, but we're not. But we do all the community plantings in town, at the post office, here at the library, cemetery pots, which really makes a difference in how our community looks.
Other projects the club has helped with include renovating the town's benches, donating to the Neighbors Cupboard Food Pantry, and assisting the New Hope Mid-Coast Domestic Violence Resource Center.
We always donate clothing to their annual clothing sale. We also donate goods for people who are sort of restarting and needing anything, furniture, kitchen supplies, you name it.
Lisa Hansen moved to Winterport just a few years ago and was welcomed into the Women's Club with open arms. She says it's an organization that's truly making a difference in the community.
We all just come together and we do so much. We are always doing something for the community. If there's a need, people reach out through the town, through wherever, and we make sure that need is filled.
In Winterport, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
What a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I've driven by that building so many times and I've been like, I wonder what they're up to.
Now we know.
I know, I love it. All right after the break, Tyler Cruz has our sports updates.
Don't go away.
Your favorite restaurants for half off. It's half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7. Go to foxbangor.com, click on half off dining, and start saving now.
Opa, a Greek Mediterranean dining experience like no other, serving the finest of Greek dishes in central Maine. Let Executive Chef Gage Derbyshire prepare your food while you enjoy a drink. Opa! It's all Greek to me.
Great restaurants from all over Eastern Maine at half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7.
Gun Sports and Brewer knows that for fun, exercise, and meeting new friends, nothing is better than ice skating. Whether it's sailing down the ice, making a great pass, and scoring in a game of hockey, or the grace, strength, and expression of figure skating. From the youngest child all the way to adulthood, anyone can enjoy the fun of skating. At Gun Sports, we supply the equipment for your skating fun for great prices, the proper fit, and service after the sale. Shop your locally owned Gun Sports Shop, Greenpoint Road in Brewer.
You come alive in the dead of winter and start work early on snow days, because snowed in is not an option. The Kubota Snow lineup of compact tractors, RTVs, and versatile attachments are built to move, plow, blow, and thrive in the winter. So when the snow falls, you can rise to meet it. Right now, bring home select Kubota equipment for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 84 months, plus save up to $300.
Available at Doors Equipment, 1468 Outer Hammond Street, Bangor.
Get inspired for your next building project and find your vision at Hammond Lumber Company.
Welcome back in, everyone. Thanks for staying with us. Down at Boston College this weekend, Cooper Flagg put on a show in Duke's closest game to Maine this season, and his dominant performance is something we've been getting used to all year since he suited up with Duke. Tyler Cruz has the story.
Yeah, I thought for Coop, by the way, what a special turnout. We've been here a lot. The representation of Duke fans has always been great. This was, I think, the best I've ever seen it. I think a lot of it has to do with Maine. And obviously he backed it up with his play.
For the first time since last January, Newport's Cooper Flagg was back in New England, taking the court in front of hundreds of fans from Maine at Boston College on Saturday. Some even coming all the way from Aroostook.
I think all the way back to sometime last year, there was people talking about coming to this game. So for me, it was more of just a blessing to be able to come out and see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd and people I knew. It just gave me more confidence than anything.
Cooper's 28 points helped Duke to their 12th straight win, earning him his 7th Rookie of the Week award. And mind you, it's just the 11th week of the season.
The thing about Coop, you learn as it goes on, but also he just keeps getting better. And he started off the year great, but he's hit just a new level of what he's doing. I don't know how many guys I've coached, but he's as good as any of them in terms of wherever you put him, he's going to do something really good.
And he just turned 18 about a month ago.
You know, he still should be in high school. So for him to adjust that quickly as an 18-year-old is as good as I've seen.
The Blue Devils are currently the second-ranked team in the nation. And based on betting odds, Flag is the favorite to win the National Player of the Year award. But for him, he's just living out a dream.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a pinch me moment almost every week at this point. I mean, this was my dream growing up my entire life, to be in the position that I'm in right now.
And he's inspiring hoopers from all over the state of Maine to go out and do the same.
And to a lot of kids from Maine that might be in a similar situation to what I was in growing up, it's easy to just not believe in yourself or just think you can't do it. But just want to keep proving that it doesn't really matter where you're from, that as long as you just stick to it and keep working, you can make anything happen.
From Chestnut Hill, I'm Tyler Cruz, ABC 7 Fox 22 Sports.
Another great Cooper moment with many more to come. We'll transition to the ice now, where the Maine men's hockey team dropped points this past weekend when they hosted UConn. Maine lost to the Huskies in regulation on Friday and salvaged an extra point in a shootout win on Saturday. Giving up third-period goals has been a problem for the Black Bears in their 5 losses and 3 ties this season. Giving up the game-winning goal against Denver with seconds remaining a few weeks ago, along with 3 total UConn third-period goals last weekend. Some may assume it's an effort problem, but head coach Ben Barr says that is not the case.
We're not struggling as far as how hard we're playing or anything like that. You know, in those moments where the game is on the line, there ends up being a little bit of a panic right now. It's happened a couple times, and a lot of times it's off face-off, so it's just like a 1 or 2 second situation. And unfortunately for us, it's cost us 3 goals at the end of games and 2 ties and a loss.
Luckily for the Black Bears, they have the weekend off, which gives them some extra time to self-scout and tune things up this week.
We got to get better. There's things we got to get better at, and we're trying to find ways to score more goals. So today we were working on trying to score some goals, and I think we just have to make sure that we're keeping our focus. It's not just hey, we're not playing this week. We'll go out and have fun. We'll have some fun, but hopefully we'll get a little bit better over the next couple of weeks.
Let's go back to the basketball court now. We're down in the high school scene. We'll start in Herman with a Class B boys clash. The Herman Hawks hosting the Trojans from MDI as we inch closer to tourney time. We pick it up in the second quarter. Hawks have it. Brody Hurd takes it in for the strong finish for 2 to tie the game at 18. Powerful finish. He even hit his hand on the glass there. Hawks again. Carter Wiggin drives, pumps, and leaves it for Mason Kinney, who brings it inside and gets the tough bucket to fall. Here's Wiggin again, getting in the paint, stopping and finding the wide-open Bryce Edwards, who gives him the assist. Nice play there. Before the half, Trojans on the move. And look at this play from James Whittam. He puts on the moves, fades away, and banks home the jumper. But the Hawks were too much in this one, winning 64-46. We head up to Central High School now, where the Red Devils hosted the Dexter Tigers in front of a packed crowd. My first time in that gym. It was awesome. We pick it up in the second quarter. Tigers swinging it around until it finds Kaylee Dutton, who buries the long 2. Then it's Dutton again. This time she's dishing out assists. She finds Callie Stone, who drains the triple to give Dexter a 13-point lead. Red Devils storming back now. Mary Allen hits nothing but net from beyond the arc. That was absolute butter from her. Shortly after, she finds her sister Annie Allen, who lays it in for 2 through the contact to cut into that Tiger lead. Towards the end of the half, Dexter moving the ball around, but it's Dutton who lays it in with the left hand, and Dexter wins this one by a score of 53-40. We'll finish with some big news down in Foxborough. The Mike Vrabel era has begun, and he's made his first big move. The NFL's Ian Rappaport broke the news Monday night that the Patriots are bringing back Josh McDaniels as their offensive coordinator. He served as the OC for 14 years under Bill Belichick and was a part of the staff for all 6 of the Super Bowls, calling plays for 3 of them. McDaniels was the OC for Mac Jones' Pro Bowl season before departing to be the Las Vegas Raiders head coach. However, that stint only lasted 25 games. Now he will play a major role in the development of Drake May. As Matthew McConaughey once said in a Lincoln ad, sometimes you have to go back to actually go forward. Hopefully it works out for the Pats. That's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Tired of waiting for the power company to restore your power? Call Ideal Energy Solutions. Let Ideal Energy Solutions install a Generac automatic standby generator and bring the power back instantly. Don't settle for less than ideal. Go with Ideal Energy Solutions. Call today.
Rowell's Garage has been serving customers in the greater Dover-Foxcroft region since 1946. Our goal is not just selling you a vehicle, but also giving you quality service to maintain your vehicle at peak performance. Browse our inventory online or in person. Whether it's a car, truck, or SUV, we can put you in the vehicle that is right for you. Sales, service, and parts. Rowell's Garage. Doing business the right way every day.
Driving the Nissan Rogue with Google built in is like the perfect assist.
Hey Google, add basketball hoop to the shopping list.
See why it's been named a Consumer Guide Best Buy for 11 years in a row. Drive the award-winning Nissan Rogue today.
Now, get a low $289 per month lease on Rogue, one of 6 Nissan vehicles with starting MSRP under $30,000.
If you're looking to make the switch to heat pumps for your home or office, call Ideal Energy Solutions. Ideal Energy Solutions is ready to help you save energy with a new heat pump today. Don't settle for less than ideal. Go with Ideal Energy Solutions. Call today.
Hey, it's warming up. According to the airport, it's minus 10 degrees now.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's gone up like a few degrees.
That's awesome.
So
versus negative 13.
Headed to the right, in the right direction.
Wow, I feel it already.
Yeah.
Here's Devin Biggs with the forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Comfort Shoes can help you find the perfect fit for your new winter footwear. Visit us across from Irving and Newport. Here we go. Cold weather advisories up across the northern parts of the state until 10 a.m. this morning. Some cold temperatures being observed there. At the same time, a freezing spray advisory along the coast will be expiring at 10 a.m. this morning as well. Wave heights not too bad at around 2 to 3 feet according to the buoys, and only 5 feet farther out towards sea at this moment in time. Meanwhile, as we move forward this morning, we're pretty clear. Most of the clouds are over the ocean. We'll have a lot of sunshine to start things off. Some clouds will be developing as we head towards the afternoon period. Meanwhile, this highly advertised winter storm along the southern parts of the state tracking off towards the east now, and will soon be out of the southern states very soon. The rest of the country, a little bit of snow across parts of the Midwest this morning, but for us, again, the rest of the Northeast looking rather quiet, just a little bit of lake effect snow developing in a few spots this morning. And again, here's the snow across parts of the Midwest. But for us today, we will be under a partly cloudy sky with those clouds clearing out of here later on tonight for a while. But then once we move forward, the clouds will be increasing again as we head towards Thursday morning. And then mostly cloudy throughout the day Thursday, a slight chance for snow for a few of us, but overall nothing too ridiculous moving forward. The clouds will start to break up as we head towards Thursday night and a parts of Friday morning, although they may linger for a few of us too early Friday morning. Otherwise, some gusty winds could reach up to about 15 miles per hour today, calming down later on tonight. And then once we head towards tomorrow, a few gusts up to 15 miles per hour cannot be ruled out again as we head towards your Thursday. Meanwhile, again, a cold start this morning. Got down to 24 below in Clayton Lake this morning. The rest of us getting close to 10 below at times, but overall temperatures will start to moderate for a few of us today with around 16 degrees for that high temperature, which is below the average high of 27, but we will start to moderate into the 20s and even 30s coming up over the next several days. Your forecast coming up, 16 degrees, partly cloudy, wind chills near 10 below, and the northwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Higher gusts cannot be ruled out. For tonight, 1 degree, increasing clouds overnight with the wind overall looking nice and calm. And then moving ahead towards tomorrow, 24 degrees, mostly cloudy, a slight chance for snow, and a southwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. A few higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Partly cloudy for your Friday with highs in the mid-20s. Mid-20s again for your Saturday under a mostly sunny sky. And snow showers for your Sunday with highs in the low 30s.
A new year and a new adventure with the perfect Chevy to take you anywhere. With pure power unleashed and future-forward technology. Because every mile matters and every path leads to new possibilities. Qualified Chevy lessees can get this 2025 Silverado for around $409 a month. Or current Chevy owners can get $5,000 total cash allowance.
It's high school basketball season, and ABC7 and Fox 22 are here to keep you up to date with your local scores and highlights during Friday Night Fast Break. Get out and support your hometown teams and look for our sports crew to get your own free Friday Night Fast Break t-shirt courtesy of
Guilford Hardware, Herrick Excavation, Kimball Insurance, McCusick Petroleum, Moosehead Trail Home and Hearth Incorporated, and Rowell's Garage and Car Wash.
If you haven't walked through the showroom at Davis Brothers Furniture in a while, we invite you to come take a look. At Davis Brothers, we've always strived to stand out from the rest. For decades now, the goal has been the same. Give people a reason to travel from all over the state and beyond to Davis Brothers Furniture in Guilford. Everything in our showroom is designed with you in mind, from a rustic lodge and barn look to traditional and even contemporary furniture. It's more than just a unique look, it's a lifestyle. Davis Brothers Furniture, deliberately different.
Yes!
Good luck.
Oh, Sean is here. Let's set everything up for remote learning.
Perfect. I plan on spending the rest of the day remote cleaning.
There's just no way anybody with common sense would leave anything outside of the building.
Someone would have found them for sure.
If you know that for sure, then why would you do it?
Hot Bench.
Wednesday at 3 on ABC7.
Welcome back, everyone. Your turn.
Yeah. Well, Netflix says its subscribers and prices are going up. The company announced new price changes to most of its plans on Tuesday. This comes after the company had its most successful quarter in history, adding a total of 19 million new subscribers, bringing the global total to 300 million. Users on the cheapest tier, which feature ads, will see a $1 increase to their bill, bringing it to $7.99 per month, while the standard subscription without ads will go up more than $2 to $17.99. The streaming service's highest tier, featuring 4K video, will also be increased to $24.99 a month. The new prices are set to take effect in the next billing cycle.
Yay!
I know,
All
right?
Finally, a fan favorite Happy Meal returns to McDonald's. On Tuesday, the fast food chain announced it is partnering with Pokemon to bring back limited time Pokemon-themed Happy Meals. Each meal features a fan favorite character on the box, included, what is that? Charizard, Rayquaza, Roaring Moon. Those are some of the characters' names. Customers will also receive a pack of 4 trading cards as well as a poster and stickers. There are 15 different Pokemon trading cards that fans can collect. Customers who order the Happy Meals through the McDonald's app will also earn an in-game bonus at no cost for Pokemon's mobile trading card game. The themed meals are available while supplies last.
Just your chicken nuggets and your trading cards.
There you go.
All right, looks like we're about out of time. If you missed anything, head to foxmango.com.
Have a great day, everyone.
Friday nights are for basketball fans. Friday Night Fast Break is your source for everything that is Maine high school basketball, highlights, and local analysis. It's the only show that hits every corner of Maine's hardwood hoop landscape, high school, college, and professional. Join us Friday night during basketball season for Friday Night Fast Break on ABC7 News at 11. Brought to you by Coastal Auto Parts, your local Napa Auto Parts dealer with 30 locations, owned and operated by a Maine family that cares.
I'm Jim with Lowry & Associates. I was contacted by a woman who asked me to help one of her friends who had been hurt by a drunk driver. Not only did he have multiple injuries, he had the added stress of being the victim of a crime. We helped make sure that he didn't have to testify or even go to court. That was important to him, so I made it a priority. We got him a $250,000 settlement. If you've been hurt by a drunk driver, call me. I'm your go-to guy.
Hurt by a drunk driver? Call the twos.
Do you have a wet basement, nasty crawl space, settling foundation, sinking concrete, or clogged gutters?
I'm Tony Hafford with TC Hafford Basement Systems, all things basement-y. For over 30 years, thousands of homeowners throughout Maine and southeastern New Hampshire have trusted TC Hafford. Basement waterproofing, crawl space repair, stabilizing foundations, concrete leveling, and gutter installation. Call TC Hafford Basement Systems for all things basement-y.
Fire, water, storm damage, and even mold. We take care of you from cleanup to construction 24/7. When disaster strikes, tell your insurance company you want Penobscot Cleaning Services.
You're watching ABC7 Banks
22. From the Great Northwoods to the Rockbound Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Hello, everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, divers have been called in to join the search for 2 missing fishermen off the coast of Maine.
Plus, Maine joins a lawsuit to challenge. Maine joins a lawsuit to challenge President Donald Trump's order to end birthright citizenship.
And a women's club in Winterport is working to make life better in their community.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you for joining us. We'll have those stories coming up along with all the day's news, including the latest on the reactions to some of President Donald Trump's executive actions in his first couple days of office. Maine is among those states that have joined a lawsuit now.
In fact, we'll have a whole segment on all the executive actions he took yesterday, so that will be coming up.
We've got a lot to tell you today, but first we're going to kick things off with a check of that forecast, and we're starting today